Good morning, Tasha. This is Professor Anderson. I am so sorry about this feedback. Your name, you're the last name in the class, and I did not have my screen fitted right, and I didn't see your name because I'm so sorry. It is my fault. Here is some feedback for writing assignment number 3. So the first thing that we look at is the format. That, like any interoffice memo, um, any written work produced from an organization, they're going to have a template. And your template at your place of work might be a little different than what's shared here in Writing 394. But the concept is that following a template in the place of business is standard business writing practice. So you have done that. The summary gives a good overall of what the problem is. What you need to do here in this summary is immediately introduce, with your permission, I'd like to conduct further research. The summary is, look, we've got a problem. It's causing this, or I've noticed this area, we've got a problem. I'd like to research a little more, or do some primary research to figure out. And then be as concrete, as brief and direct as possible. With your permission, I'd like to conduct some primary research in the form of a survey of current employees, in the form of interviews or questionnaire, but just very brief. You don't have to go into detail of what the questions are, or anything like that. But in the summary, you want to give a heads up. This is the purpose for this memo. Let me scooch my screen down here a little more so I can see more. Yes, perfect. Excellent problem. Excellent identification of the problem and why it needs to be. Okay, in this part here, how is it impacting the productivity in your business? So what is the problem and why it needs to be investigated in general? This is specific to you. So if it's stressed employees have poor work performance, we can see this in the third quarter. Something like that. This is for you. This second is more a description of the secondary research. You've already done the secondary research. You've done, and instead of saying the secondary research, I will conduct involved scholarly articles, remove the first person and instead say, research shows individual or those who do not experience stress firsthand. Or just say research shows. Let's see. All right. So in here, let's rethink this a little bit. So what you want to do, instead of telling these sources that you've used, because that will be forthcoming in your research-based report, and instead of giving a recommendation, tell what the research says. So research shows offering resources to employees helps reduce stress in the workplace. Scholarly articles and trade magazines point to offering reference libraries in an HR department. So there's two things you need to do. One, remove the first person. Do not say, I did this, I did this, I did that. Say the research shows. Make it removed and third person. And then finally, make sure that you are giving an overview of what the research showed. So you've already done this research. You want to explain what were the 3 nuggets of information that came out of that research. And then primary research, this is where you want to describe. Okay, yeah. The primary research I will use in primary research, you can use the first person. The primary research I look to conduct are examples, questionnaires, and is there anything else? A survey. The examples will interview current employees. Be careful with leading and open-ended questions. You want to, because that makes it difficult to control your data. And it's not that you're trying to have your data say anything, but if you have open-ended, you're trying to figure out how stress feels in a specific area of the workplace. And you just say, tell me how stressed you are. That doesn't target like where in the workplace that person feels stressed. So make sure when you craft your questions for the interview that they are targeted so that your data is is honest and genuine. When you have open-ended questions, your data can go all over the place. So the level of allowing it to be misinterpreted or interpreted for one purpose when it's actually leaning towards another is greater, and you want to try to mitigate that. So, interviews targeted on a question, an online questionnaire and an online survey. And so make sure that the questionnaire is, again, have you ever suffered from stress? Yes, that's very targeted. Do you know anyone who suffered in stress? I would go a little further into this. And the next question, so you can combine the questionnaire and the survey. So if you say, have you ever suffered from stress in the workplace? Yes or no. And then the next question is, did the stress, if you suffered stress in the workplace, did it, which area was it associated with? Desk, personal desk space, cafeteria, I don't know, name the locations. And then the next one, if you suffered stress at workplace, from what content was it? Was work overload, memos, interoffice memos, emails. And then the next one, so that once you ask this stress, then the next sets of questions underneath of this are targeted to identify where the stress is coming from. These are just suggestions, but you want to make sure that that you're very concrete with you're explaining to the decision maker what kind of research you're doing. Okay. Yes, this is all absolutely true. Stress affects employee performance. It affects individuals. It affects the whole business as well. Again, in this one, it says, how will the organization benefit from your research? What will your organization get out of this? Reducing stress can help prevent. What is it that you're looking to create or understand or develop or introduce as a result of your research? And then in conclusion, the need to conduct this research is driven by the increase. Okay. Use what's called active voice. So just say, this is the need to conduct this research is driven by the increased cases of stress among employees. The reality is stress from our employees or stress in our employee is increasing. Research shows, and then describe, in one sentence what your secondary research shows. Stress in the workplace is on the rise across the country. In our company, we feel it. Introducing or conducting a survey that will help to understand how stressors affect our employees will help us to better craft a mitigation or craft a solution to our problem. So you want to be just as clear and concrete. Take out I think. Don't say I think. Say just, addressing this serious issue empowers employees with the guidance needed to, work through work-related stress. You want to make sure you're active voice and not passive voice. So I hope that was helpful. And again, I apologize so profusely. I did not have my screen fitted right. As you can see, I have to itch my screen up. I have to scooch my screen up. Now it's not going up and down. And your name was just under it. And I am so sorry. Please take your time. I know there's a lot of load on the work. If you can get it by the end of this week, or the end of next week, that would be great. That wouldn't be putting too much pressure on your research-based report. And again, I thank you for your patience.